In the 21st century, collage art has comfortably established itself as a form of high art. But what artists have defined collage as we know it today? Welcome to the top 20 most famous collage artists. Collage art is an art form and technique in which individual materials, think of pieces of paper or photographs, are assembled into a new and autonomous artwork with a predominantly two-dimensional character. We travel back in time to the start of the 20th century in France, where collage would find its way to the realms of high art. In 1912, orchestrated by Cubism's greatest masters, Pablo Picasso and Georges Braque. Ever since, collage art would play its influential role throughout art history, being a favorite art form from Dadaism, Surrealism, pop art, up to contemporary artists today. But before we dive into the top 20, let's start with some honorable mentions.
Honorable mentions.
Adrian Geni, with his collages reminiscent to his painterly practice. The aforementioned Georges Braque, who revolutionized painting in the 20th century and introduced collage to the realms of high art. John Steesaker, the British artist who re-examines various relationships to the photographic image. Hannah Höch, who collected source material feverishly. Kurt Schwitters and his März collages and assemblages.
20. David Maljkovic.
The first artist of our list is David Maljkovic, born in 1973 in Rijeka and currently residing and working in Zagreb, Croatia. Maljkovic examines his own history, growing up during Tito's regime in former Yugoslavia, in relation to the present, but also to the future. He distinctively works within the artistic tradition of collage art, formally and conceptually. By manner of juxtapositions and displacement, Maljkovic envisions new political and conceptual possibilities.
19. León Ferrari.
Up next, we travel to Argentina, where León Ferrari was born in 1920 and passed away in 2013, both in the Argentinian capital, Buenos Aires. His subversive practice spans across various media. Think of the usual suspects, such as sculpture, drawing, painting and film, but also poetry, mail art, sound art, assemblage and of course, collage. With Ferrari's collages, the artist often incorporates language or calligraphy, examining power dynamics and social hierarchies, often related to religion, the state, or both. For instance, with Untitled from 1987, Ferrari uses the pictorial tradition of the Ascension of the Virgin Mary, depicting two angels along the sides of a missile taking off into the sky, in order to critique militarianism and conservative entities who remain silent.
18. Henrik Oleson.
Born in 1967 in Esbjerg, Denmark, and currently residing and working in Berlin, Germany, Henrik Oleson is a neo-conceptual artist, covering a wide range of subjects, from legislation up to natural history. By manner of well-founded research, the artist creates neo-conceptual artworks in the form of posters and text, collages, sculptures, often using ready-mades and in-situ installations. With his collage works, such as Untitled from 2013, Oleson takes on homophobia or racism by arranging daily objects and combining text in the artwork.
17. Nancy Spero.
Up next, we have none other than Nancy Spero, born in 1926 in Cleveland and passed away in 2009 in Manhattan. The American artist is best known for her public combat, fighting racism, violence, and sexism with art. She actively fought the historical oppression of women, empowering them as time passed by, depicting them as heroic figures instead of fragile victims.
16. Goshka Macuga.
Born in 1967 in Warsaw, Poland, and currently residing and working in London, Goshka Macuga is one of the most important collage artists of her generation. The starting point of her works is always based upon a historical and archival research. She questions historiography, the issues of her time, including political structures, using collage as a tool for research.
15. Geta Brătescu.
Born in 1926 in Ploiești and passed away in 2018 in Bucharest, Geta Brătescu was one of the first representatives of conceptual art in Romania. She grew up during the communist regime and developed a deeply personal oeuvre, taking on identity, gender, and the conceptual notion of dematerialization in art. With the power of the line, we are able to identify the influence of her career as a graphic designer, using simple forms, shapes, and lines as a tool for self-expression and an often oblique form of political subversion.
14. Bruce Conner.
1933 in Kansas and passed away in 2008 in California. Bruce Conner is an American artist, best known for his multimedia practice. However, in this case we'll be focusing on his impressive body of collage artworks. Conner tackles the post-war context of American culture, marked by the Cold War and the ascension of a consumer society and increasing materialism. With his collages, he searches for the depths of the American subconscious.
13. Wangechi Mutu.
Up next, we encounter one of the most important African painters of today, Wangechi Mutu. Born in 1972 in Nairobi, Kenya, Wangechi Mutu currently resides and works in New York City. Mutu's multidisciplinary practice explores violence and misrepresentations afflicting contemporary women. She creates and depicts distorted female figures and forms. Wangechi Mutu uses her art to fight against inequality and the lingering effects of globalization and consumerism.
12. Barbara Kruger.
Born in 1945 in Newark, New Jersey, Barbara Kruger is an American artist, best known for her photo and text collages. She produced these collages from the late 1970s and throughout the 1980s, resulting in a rise to fame as she would become one of the most important figures of the feminist art movement. Her characteristic use of large-scale black and white images and text take on photography and typography with collage. She examines photographs from mass media, self-identity, the public opinion, and gender difference in relation to media representation.
11. John Arp.
Born in 1886 in Strasbourg, France, and passed away in 1966 in Basel, Switzerland, Hans Peter Wilhelm Arp, better known as Jean Arp, was a French-Swiss artist and poet, lauded for his artistic practice as a painter and sculptor. However, in 1915, when he arrived in Zurich, Arp created his first characteristic collages, often in collaboration with Sophie Tauber, his wife-to-be.
10. Richard Hamilton.
Born in 1922 in London and passed away in 2011 in Northend, the United Kingdom, Richard Hamilton was one of the first English pop artists of his generation. Some of his most iconic artworks are created using collage as his main strategy and medium. Think of his famous Study for Fashion plate from 1969, or one of the earliest works of pop art. Just what is it that makes today's home so different, so appealing, from 1956?
9. Kara Walker.
Up next, born in 1969, we have none other than Kara Walker. Walker is a renowned contemporary artist who is best known for exploring race, gender, sexuality and more. The nature of her most recognizable motif, the silhouetted figures, result in a logical choice of collage as her medium. Think of the collage replacement parts from 2021. Even more, she also dares to implement the same strategy on different surfaces, for instance, directly and boldly on the gallery wall.
8. Max Ernst.
Born in 1891 in Brühl, Germany, and passed away in 1976 in Paris, France, Max Ernst is a German visual artist and poet associated with an array of art movements encompassing Expressionism, Dada, Surrealism, and more. In 1919, the same year he co-founded the Cologne Dada movement, Max Ernst started to produce his first collages. Today, Ernst is internationally lauded for his intriguing collages on paper, strongly marked by Dada and Surrealism, using photographic prints, pieces of paper, and often manipulating the collage with ink.
7. Martha Rosler.
We return to the contemporary era, with Martha Rosler, who is one of the most iconic female artists and representatives of feminist art. Born in 1943 in Brooklyn, Martha Rosler achieved worldwide recognition with her photomontages, using a collage technique with photography. She fights social injustice, tackling issues in politics on war, but also politics on identity. She captures the contrast between the horrors of war versus the domestic lives of women in a single picture. A domestic scene takes place in an often stereotypical manner in which the role of women in society is the central subject. However, simultaneously, instead of seeing a beautiful garden or an urban environment throughout the windows of those beautiful American interiors, we encounter cruel scenes of war.
6. Henri Matisse.
Born in 1869 in Le Château-Cambrésis and passed away in Nice in 1954, Henri Matisse was a painter, sculptor, draftsman, printmaker, and also a collage artist. Matisse is of course best known as a Fauvist painter, internationally lauded for his most iconic painting, La Danse, from 1910. However, his typical use of bright colors and his early influence of textile patterns would result in radically innovative collages, best known as his cutouts. During the 1940s, Matisse used cut paper as his medium, before reassembling them into a vibrant and lively collage with a radically new overall aesthetic, which still feels contemporary to this very day.
5. Man Ray.
Our next artist is a key figure for both Surrealism and Dadaism, born in 1890 in Philadelphia and passed away in 1976 in Paris. Man Ray is one of the most important artists of the first half of the 20th century. His complex and experimental body of works encompasses various media. Think of painting, sculpture, photography, but also early video art, printmaking, and of course collage. The visual strategies and possibilities of collage art are of course perfect for a Dadaist and Surrealist such as Man Ray. It enables the artist to create absurd and surreal encounters within the image, such as his humorous artwork, Les Filles des Noix, pasting nuts on top of two female figures, both originating from a different source.
4. David Hockney.
Arguably one of the more important and dominant figures of English pop art, and without a doubt one of the most iconic painters of today, is our next artist, David Hockney. Hockney was born in 1973 in Bradford and currently resides and works in Normandy in France. Hockney created a series of iconic photo collages throughout the 1980s. The British artist and painter had always been intrigued by photography, optics, and its influence on art and painting, but also the human perception of our surroundings, the art of seeing. With his photographic collages, Hockney experiments with the possibility to fragment a scene into several pieces, achieving a result which is, according to Hockney, more similar to how the eye works instead of viewing a single-shot photograph of a specific scene.
3. John Baldessari.
We enter the podium of our list with a true pioneer of conceptual art. Born in 1931 in California and passed away in 2020 in LA, John Baldessari implemented collage in his ID-based practice. He transformed popular culture and art historical iconography by creating unique and authentic conceptual artworks based upon meditations on the image, language, and appropriation. His Intersection series is one of the most clear examples of how Baldessari incorporates the possibilities of the medium of collage in a conceptual context, using a cross-structure to create new images as intersections, followed by a series of new possible analogies for interpretation.
2. Robert Rauschenberg.
Born in 1925 in Texas and passed away in 2008 in Florida. Robert Rauschenberg is an American artist, best known for pioneering pop art in the 1960s. He incorporated popular culture with technical experimentation, resulting in characteristic postmodern artworks marked by eclecticism. Besides his three-dimensional works and silkscreen paintings, Rauschenberg was also a true collage artist, using photographs from books and magazines as his source material, deconstructing the images before reconstructing them using paint as a visual strategy to create a coherent artwork on paper.
1. Pablo Picasso.
We top our list with how we started this video, with none other than Pablo Picasso. Born in 1881 in Malaga, Spain, and passed away in 1973 in Mougins, France, Picasso was a true modernist and innovator. The iconic artist pushed painting towards representational abstraction at the start of the previous century, pioneering not only Cubism but also collage art. Still Life with Chair Caning from 1912 is one of the earliest examples of collage as a high art form in Western art history. Picasso incorporated a printed oilcloth and an actual rope onto a two-dimensional surface. Doing so, together with the efforts of his dear colleague and friend, Georges Braque, collage art was born, and the rest is history. Thank you so much for watching today. Feel free to watch our video on the 20 most famous sculptors next, and feel free to consider subscribing and stay posted for more contemporary art. Bye.